My wife, 38F, and I, 39M, have been together for 12 years. I don't know how to describe it other than calling it the perfect relationship. I think in 12 years we've only ever gotten to the point of really raising our voices at one another maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together, but always have never had issues allowing each other to lead our own lives and follow our own interests. We bought a house where we wanted. We both have good high-paying jobs that have great work-life balance. Basically, it's been everything short of perfect. We've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant, and it hadn't been happening. We were just about to start the fertility stuff when I came home from a work trip, and guess what, she's pregnant. I had this weird instant thought of, wait, I thought we didn't try during the week last month because of the fertility testing, but I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy at it. So I just assumed I misremembered. Now, I travel around the country pretty regularly for work. Other than COVID, I've been on the road as much as 40 weeks a year sometimes. Since COVID, it's been less, but still more than a week a month. Over the last 4 to 5 years, my wife has gotten very friendly with a guy she works with. Let's call him Matt. Matt is slightly younger, I think 34M or so. I know him, he's married. I know his wife. They've worked together for I think 7 years or so. He's always been around. Him and I have been friendly. Have I ever thought something was happening? No, but I've always thought. You'd be a fool to not think there's even a 1% chance your spouse would go outside the relationship. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always seen it as a safeguard to not take my wife or any other partner in the past for granted. She's never given me a reason to think she'd do that. But anything is possible. Please subscribe to support the channel. So about a month ago, I'm out of state for work, and she's at home. I ask her what she's doing earlier in the day, and she says Matt is coming by for dinner. Not out of the ordinary, Matt comes by from time to time. Sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, sometimes when I'm not there. I don't think much of it. We have a security system which includes cameras both inside and outside of the house, which we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record and are live accessible by both her and I. I often use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case of an alarm going off. She knows I check those cameras. There's a system installed where I can talk through them. I'll mess with my wife, and she will with me on them if either of us are out of town. She travels for work as well, but far less than I do. Point is, it's known that I check them often when I'm not at home. So I turn on the camera and I see my 4 months pregnant wife lying on the floor, on her side with Matt sitting, straddling her legs and using a foam roller to massage her hips. So I'm like, "Ugh, what the fuck is this?" I start rewinding through the footage and they are eating and talking normally, but then they get on the couch and get under the same blanket. Now, they are feet to feet, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move to the floor, and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her. I'm still watching the cameras. They both look like deer in headlights, and he very quickly leaves. We get into an argument. She isn't mad at me accusing her, but she's adamant that nothing has or ever would happen, and that what I saw was innocent, and she was complaining about being in pain from the pregnancy. Which I know is true. She's already having some issues with back pain, etc. The biggest point of that discussion was I asked, if I were there, would you two have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me? And she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her I didn't want to talk after that, and we'd talk when I got home 3 days later. That's when it hit me. What if my weird gut moment feeling about her telling me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened, and this is not my child we are having? Now, it eats away at my while I'm at a hotel alone 1,000 miles away for 3 days. I reconcile with myself that I think it's less likely than more likely that something between them has happened. But basically my 1% just jumped to 10%, 20% maybe? I get home and she's on eggshells and doesn't mention it. I kinda wait to see what she's going to do. 2 days later, she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swears nothing has happened, she would never. Doesn't do anything over the top to try and prove anything, which I took as a good sign. But anyway, we talk out the issue and everything to a point of at least moving forward for now. I'm still coping and dealing with it, figuring out how to retrust after all this time. I'm getting more and more understanding of the fact that they are friends. They've been friends for so long. Maybe he has intentions, but I don't see her having any, and I've never really picked up on it, and I've spent time around both of them together many, many times and never caught anything. So the thing that is destroying me right now is, if I'm wrong and something did happen, well, I can figure out how to deal with that. What if that child isn't mine? In the argument and few long conversations we've had about the situation since, I've never brought that up, and she's not mentioned it. Mostly because I don't want to make the situation worse and crush her if in fact she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think to do at this point is to wait until the baby is born and immediately order a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Should I tell her and have it dealt with now? If you're a woman in her shoes and you're telling the truth, would that destroy you or your view of me? If you're lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask a super vague question, but what do I do? TLDR. Very small chance my wife of 12 years had an affair and she's 4 months pregnant, and I can't bring myself to ask for a paternity test for fear of crushing her if nothing actually happened. But I am planning on doing it in secret when the baby comes. What do I do? Update. So many comments. Thank you everyone, more than I can address directly, but I'm going to keep reading a few things. 1. Stop demaying me about this, thanks. 2. Some have made some good points about addressing it now rather than later, and that's something that I'm considering more than I was before. Thank you. 3. To those focused only on my relationship. I get it, but that's not what I'm focused on. We've been talking about it a lot. My wife and I are pretty open people with each other. I'm not saying I'm convinced nothing happened, but I'm more focused on paternity right now. For if I need to track, spy on, Life 360, my wife, then this relationship is over already. That's not the relationship we have, and not one that I ever want, and in my opinion, not one anyone should ever have. We are working on rebuilding trust. As I said in this long-winded post, my default of 1% possibility went up to 10% or so. Trust me, I'm taking my relationship seriously, but to those I've said this to already, if the kid isn't mine, then there's no longer any conversation to have. 5. I've already had this discussion with my lawyer. I don't live in a state where the birth certificate stuff will be an issue. If I have paperwork that this child isn't mine, then divorce isn't going to be much of an issue. Both of us are in an independent financial situation where it won't matter much regardless. I'll keep up with this post as long as I can and post an update when and if anything gets resolved. Update May 10th, 2024. Update. Slight chance my 39M, pregnant wife, 38F, had an affair. Should I ask for a paternity test or wait? Here's the original post from yesterday. https://www.reddit.com/r/relationship_advice/s/cphgau9tsm. So she was out of state on a business trip until late last night. It's Friday, so she worked from home in our kitchen. So I asked to talk and brought it up and asked for a test. She immediately said yes and said there's zero doubt and nothing that she'd even have a second to worry about. But she has no problem doing it now. The only caveat I left it with is, if it's invasive at all per our doctors, then I'm okay waiting until it's low risk. I'm not a doctor, no clue what they'd have to do it now. So not sure when we are. But she's aware, and we are getting one. It was a decent and longer conversation. We are currently sitting together getting lunch. She's got no clue I did this on Reddit. Hence the new account, because she is on here somewhere. Thank you everyone for your help and opinions. A bunch of you made me realize that we are already really open about everything, and if nothing happened then she wouldn't worry about getting one. I was more worried about her health and adding some insane level of stress if it was an issue, as she's an at-risk pregnancy, and it took so long for us to get pregnant. So again, thank you all for the help. I suppose I can update if it's mine or not, but I'm not sure how long that will be. I'm 90 to 95% sure it is mine. But this will help us continue this conversation. Thank you. Update. Just because it seems to be more of a topic on this post versus the other one for some reason. Yes, I have the footage. No, I haven't talked to Matt yet. He's told her he wants to talk about it, but I've told them to wait on that. My relationship with my wife and the paternity is what's important right now. I will eventually talk with Matt. No, I'm not going to get Matt's wife involved intentionally. I don't know why I would other to just be vindictive. I'm not going to cover for him, obviously, but his relationship is his, and mine is mine. I'm not interested in making this worse. Whatever is going on between him and his wife isn't any of my business. Relevant comments. OOP when asked why his wife thought she could be intimate with someone else. We've talked about it at length, nothing is being ignored. I could write you an essay about our past, her reasons, and my feelings on it. But instead I'll just say, I'm aware of it. She's claiming innocence of anything further, but at the same time admitting that it wasn't a good look, but she wasn't thinking about it at the time. And that's what we are currently working through. When told it doesn't look innocent and asked if his wife goes to Matt's house when his wife isn't home. She's 4 months. I was home. And we had been on the clock, to the point of the days blending together. Trust me, we are pretty open people and pretty comfortable with ourselves and each other. I don't know if she's been to his house without his wife. I mean, the 3 and 4 of us all hang out probably once or twice a month, but they work directly together every day and have for years. So obviously there's a closeness there. They are both upper management in their company. And at my company I have long-term friends that are women. I've traveled with them, we've done dinner and hung out in hotel rooms together. But I've never done anything because that's not me. I'm married and love my wife and my life. I have no reason to. So I mean the optics are bad. I just have to decide if it's only the optics or if she has a reason too. Maybe he has a reason too, and that's what I saw that I'm not sure about. But that comes down to, do I trust her to handle that? She says if that's the case, she's never noticed it. And she hangs out with him and his wife just about as much as he hangs out with us. She works in a building right near them. My company is based out of Chicago, and I live on one of the coasts. So my coworker friends are much more spread out. We can't go to the bar to grab after-work drinks any day like they can. Honestly, I usually go to their work hangouts more than mine because of that. I'm friendly with her CEO because of it. So is it perfect? No. But I've always trusted her. I've never had a reason not to. In 15 years, this is the first crack or dent in it. OOP gives a clearer description of what happened that day. That's not what I saw. She said something. He froze. Said something I couldn't hear. She said, no, don't worry about it. He put something in the dishwasher, and she walked him out to the front door. He didn't dive out the window. You have to remember this is Reddit. I'm not putting every single nuanced detail in this because that would take me hours to write, and I'm not putting my security footage on the internet for strangers to see. The reason I have the security system in the first place is because of a stranger on the internet. I'm not saying anything beyond that didn't happen for sure between them. I'm saying I don't know now, and I don't have any proof. That's what my wife and I are discussing just about every day and what we are working through. The original point of the post was, the only thing we hadn't talked about was paternity because I don't want to put her in a situation where she medically loses the child. Mine or not. Not only have I not been able to put every single nuanced thing in this, I've also sprinkled in false details about our lives. Nothing pertinent to what happened but other mundane details. I was a very small public figure at one point, and some low-life from the internet traveled across the country to make death threats against us because of something warped in his head, to the point where the federal government had to get involved. People in here are wildly jumping at conclusions with much less information than I have, and ignoring the original point of the post and the original questions asked. Has he told Matt's wife? She is my wife's friend's wife. We don't meet up and knit together. I know her through my wife. I see her maybe once every few months at a bar after work, or if they come by for dinner or to hang out. We aren't besties. Again, what should I go tell her? Hey, your husband was at my house. I knew he was there, and I saw him run a foam roller over the outside of my wife's hip while he was sitting on her feet. It's super obvious they are fucking, and even though I'm not sure, it's possible she's carrying his baby. This isn't a soap opera. There's nothing I know that I can tell her, so why would she take my word on what tiny evidence there is? And why or how in the world would that help my situation? If all of this is false now, I've destroyed my relationship for acting like a child, trying to drum up drama for what obviously looks like being vindictive, and I put them in the same situation we are in now. For something that I don't know is true yet. I believe you have entirely lost the plot here. Please subscribe to support the channel.